Biden's green transition forecast to create energy insecurity. Data shows a looming mismatch between climate ambitions and required critical minerals. Thomas Caccianati, Daily Caller News Foundation on W&D reports, the Biden administration pushed green energy in the wake of the Ukraine crisis, saying it would ensure U.S. energy independence, but failed to address foreign mining and refining dominance, a key to renewable energy security, according to industry leaders. The administration has argued that renewable energy technologies like solar, wind, and electric vehicles aren't dependent on fossil fuels and would lead to lower costs for consumers over the long run, a line of argument that Democratic lawmakers have also parroted in recent days. On Wednesday, the average price of gasoline nationwide reached 4.25 cents per gallon as of March 9, the highest level in history, and more than 52% higher than a year ago, according to AAA data. Now, the destabilization of global crude oil and natural gas markets, which Russia has established itself as a major player over the last decade. Biden announced a ban on Russian oil imports amid the crisis, sending prices higher. National Economic Council Director Brian Deese told Bloomberg, the only viable path to energy independence for American economy is to reduce the energy intensity of our economy overall and ultimately to reduce it to zero and to get ourselves to a position where we're no longer reliant on fossil fuels. He said, that's a long-term project, but what we're seeing today and the geopolitics and economic pain should only reinforce our efforts to try to move there more quickly. When asked about energy independence on Monday, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki similarly said, transitioning away from fossil fuels will alleviate high energy costs faster than building the canceled Keystone XL pipeline. Democratic Senator Sheldon Whitehouse tweeted Wednesday that switching to renewables would lower costs and insulate consumers from price spikes. California Representative Ro Khanna, top Democrat on the Oversight Subcommittee on Environment, added the U.S. must have a moonshot to invest in renewable energy if it wants to lower gasoline prices long term. But a so-called green transition would shift dependency from fossil fuels resources like oil, natural gas, and coal, and which are abundant in the U.S., to critical minerals like cobalt, copper, lithium, nickel, graphite, and zinc, which are largely mined and refined by China, Russia, and other foreign powers. Such minerals are essential for the production of electric vehicle batteries, battery storage facilities, solar panels, and wind turbines, according to a 2021 International Energy Agency IEA report. IEA Executive Director Fatih Birol said, the data shows a looming mismatch between the world's strengthened climate ambitions and the availability of critical minerals that are essential to realizing those ambitions. The average electric car needs 6 times more mineral resources than a conventional car, while a single onshore wind turbine plant requires 9 times more minerals than a typical fossil fuel plant, the IEA reported. A single offshore wind farm needs a whopping 8,000 kilograms of copper to produce 1 megawatt, enough to power just 400 to 900 homes. The Green New Deal world. But China controlled about 55% of the world's mining capacity and 85% of global mineral refining in 2020, a White House supply chain report from June concluded. The report pointed to Russia as another key global producer of minerals. Experts have warned that shifting rapidly to renewables could therefore decrease energy security, forcing reliance on countries that have access to the highly sought-after minerals. Biden has committed to aggressive climate goals, such as achieving a completely carbon-free grid by the year 2035 and net zero emissions by 2050. The focus on renewables, in essence, is a license to trade what dependency we may have had on the Middle East with an almost exclusive dependency on communist China for the materials and the processing, Institute for Energy Research President Tom Pyle told Daily Caller. About 20% of our oil is imported directly from the Middle East, he said. Today, without any changes to the landscape, we'd be about 80% dependent on China in a Green New Deal world. Pyle compared the critical mineral trade to the direct Russia to Germany natural gas Nord Stream 2 pipeline. Critics, including U.S. lawmakers, slammed the pipeline for its potential to tether European energy supply to Russia state-run energy firms. The German government halted its review of the pipeline amid the Russia and Ukraine events. In 2021, the U.S. mined about 6% of the global copper supply, 0.4% of global cobalt supplies, 0.67% of the world's nickel, 0% of global graphite supply, and about 5.7% of the world's zinc, the annual U.S. Geological Survey analysis published in January said. Terrible far behind? February 22nd, Biden administration announced an all-of-government approach to boosting domestic critical mineral supplies. The White House fact sheet said critical mineral demand is projected to increase 400 to 600% in the coming decades, while demand for minerals import for electric vehicles specifically would increase up to 4,000%. The president's plan includes a series of funding agreements with the private sector on future domestic mining and refining projects. As part of the initiative, the Department of Defense, State, and Energy also unveiled a plan to stockpile minerals for future use. Miners, though, slammed the administration plan, saying it would mean greater reliance on foreign materials since it would begin immediately stockpiling minerals not yet mined in the U.S. The National Mining Association, NMA, applauded the effort but suggested Biden should push harder for domestic production. The challenge is that going to transfer to enable policies from the permitting authorities here in the United States to actually stand up and incentivize new mining, new mines, new mine production, mine expansions for materials that are essential. It's more secure coming from inside our borders than from its overseas, especially when a lot of suppliers now who are trying to corner the market, including regimes like China and Russia. Nolan noted the U.S. environmental review process for approving new mining projects is cumbersome and can cause American mines to fall behind their foreign rivals. It takes an estimated 10 years for the federal government to approve a mining permit in the U.S., one of the longest approval processes in the world, according to NMA. He said the U.S. is terribly far behind. When you look at even our allies in Canada and Australia, it takes them 2 to 3 years, so it's a huge problem for the U.S. He said in this report, the White House completely neglected to address how the Department of Interior, which oversees permitting for mine projects, would improve the regulatory process. Instead, DOI opened the door for further regulations and legal hurdles, Nolan said. Environmentalists oppose mining projects around the world, arguing that they are detrimental to the surrounding ecosystem and environment. In January, DOI nixed the permits for the Twin Metal Minnesota project approved during the Trump administration, explaining it had not undergone a complete environmental review, and the project would have produced copper, nickel, cobalt, and platinum and created union jobs. An estimate 95% of U.S. nickel reserves, 88% of U.S. cobalt reserves, and more than 30% of U.S. copper reserves are located in the now canceled Twin Metal site, according to Stoner. So he says, if foreign adversary nations stop selling us critical minerals, it would be devastating to our nation. It would be devastating for the Department of Defense. It would be devastating for the medical instrument company. It would be devastating for our everyday lives, he said. So we have the opportunity to mine these minerals in the U.S. of America, and this administration is hell-bent on banning mining across this nation. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.